Welcome to the Destiny of Manufacturing podcast. I am your host, Dean Phillips, and I am the Director of Technical Training here at the Precision Metal Forming Association. And the show, Destiny of Manufacturing, is powered by the Precision Metal Forming Association. With me today, I have the great fortune to have with me Chris Highfield, who is the president over at the Pennant Group. We are so proud to have him here. Pennant is doing a lot of amazing things, and we want to hear all about them. Chris, welcome.
Dean, welcome, and thank you for allowing me to join and talk with the group today.
Thank you for your time. I know you're a very busy man, and we do appreciate you coordinating with us and everything to make this happen. Right off the bat, I always like to ask everybody, what's your big takeaway over the next 5 years?
It's a good question. As we look at manufacturing, and I've now been in manufacturing 35 plus years, and I love to make stuff. So I can be passionate about how you manufacture parts. I was always the guy that took things apart, or the kid that took things apart to see how they were made and how they manufactured. And when I was going through college 35 years ago now, so it's been a while, but the industry and a lot of the professors migrated to a message that the U.S. was transitioning from a manufacturing economy to a service economy. And so many times people took that as a literal sense. The neat thing is that the U.S. will always need to manufacture, and any growing country will need to manufacture. So it's exciting to be able to talk about manufacturing. I'm passionate about it. But looking forward, how manufacturing will continue to grow and migrate. There's a lot of current economic and socioeconomic issues we're looking at. And we have several concerns about the future of manufacturing, not that it will go away, but because there are some changing things we need to look at, from rising costs. We all are affected by inflation on a daily basis. But the number two and number three things keep me up more than anything else at night, and that's the ability to recruit and retain a workforce. And multiple reasons why that exists. But I see manufacturing changing. There's going to be a changing mode. Current administration's focused on bringing manufacturing back to the U.S., which I think is positive, even though it's always been strong. But it'll bring multitude of things with it. How we train and recruit and train our workforce, how we continue to get better from a manufacturing standpoint to make sure that we're efficient and that we are economical in order to be able to grow our business. And then there's the technical piece, including AI and some other automation and technical pieces that's going to change manufacturing over time as well.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting you say that, because part of my job is, of course, as technical director over at PMA, is focused on workforce development, and it's an area that most companies are struggling with and have changed the way that they look at it. Years ago, going back a decade or even a little bit before that, people focused on, well, if I don't have the staff, I'll just go and hire them. And now in today's modern times, you have to build from within. And in most companies, there's just not the available talent out there. So you have to build that. How do you see the opportunities that are created because of that?
That's an interesting topic, and it hits home, Dean. Recently, we've made the determination, whether it was a maintenance person or a tooling person, or even some of our sales roles, is we can't find the people on the outside. Should we grow from within, build from within? We've always had this situation that you put together a list of job requirements, and that job requirements can become quite cumbersome. You get more and more people, and all of a sudden you almost create a job description or a requirement that's unattainable in any manner. So we've grown from within. So I think that needs to continue to grow from within. Fully support, especially in the tooling side. We look at the tooling and maintenance side as a first level, is to be able to have a journeyman's tool process internally, so we can bring young, educated, and technical people into the organization and grow them. You and I shared in a different conversation about my son, who's a college graduate, but he had a lot of friends that didn't want to go to school, but they were technical people. These were kids that rebuilt mini bikes and dirt bikes, and they were technical. And I said, gosh, if you would apply yourself and go into tooling or maintenance, you will have a job forever in any location that you want. And oh, by the way, if you actually look at the salaries and the economics of those positions, they're paid quite well as well. But people overlook that and not go into those things. So I think it's important to grow within. It's a neat area, especially with a technical understanding. There's some fun to it, and you have quite the job security overall as well in that area.
And it's never boring. I could tell you,
Correct.
firsthand when I started off, almost 38 years ago, I started off in the servicing technical support for our equipment. I worked for Niagara Machine and Tool, who was a press builder, and they later became Clearing Niagara and Bliss. And when I worked for them, there were never 2 days that were the same. It wasn't like, oh, this is going to be another one of these. It was never that way. There was always new things to learn, new experiences. And if you develop those problem solving skills, those can transition to all parts of and all facets of your life. You'd be surprised at how much that works out for you. Do you see technical knowledge being replaced by things like AI or any of those kinds of technologies?
It's interesting. We've just broken into the AI function, and we internally are looking at the chat GBT and some of the other AI functions to help how we communicate, how we correspond with customers, how we recruit, how we promote our business. At this point, we're going to see advancements, in my opinion, in AI in the manufacturing shop floor, but more about efficiencies and reporting versus actually taking the job of the labor or the direct labor. So I think those positions will continue to be there. I think that AI will help and technology will help us be better from a manufacturing efficiency standpoint. And many years ago, I had the benefit of doing an interview with Metal Fabrication magazine. It's probably been 35 years ago now. And one of the questions was asked was how manufacturing changed over time. And from your experience with Niagara and with Link Systems, but a press is a press is a press is a press in general standpoint. And a lot of manufacturers have presses that are 1950s and 1960s vintage. But where you do see the improvements are through the systems and the controls. Certainly there's new presses out there and new manufacturing processes out there, but the material handling and your control systems and how they talk to each other, and there are some servo presses obviously out there as well, but the technologies continue to develop. So the press itself is fine, but it's to make it bigger, stronger, faster, be more efficient, be safer for the workforce to work at, and then also to give more on-time reporting structures so that your SPMs and how many pieces per hour your employees are getting. So again, I think that technology piece will help us be better, be more economical, and be more efficient in the process, and it will supplement the workforce. And use a little bit of an example. I had the benefit about 6 weeks ago to talk with the group at PMA about automation, and we're new in our automation structure, but Pennant's automation approach is to not have automation replace our workforce, but to complement our workforce and take some of those mundane tasks out of the way, let our workforce do more complicated items and reduce the fatigue, improve the throughput, and have a complementary manufacturing of their automation structures and systems versus taking people out of it. And, we started the conversation about recruiting and retaining employees, and we have to use cobots in the process versus full-fledged integrated robots, but cobots that help our workforce be better. So I see technology complementing the manufacturing process to make us more efficient and have better reporting and cost improvement opportunities.
Now, Chris, you mentioned there about what things you can do to improve. And I really like the way you put it there as far as longevity of workforce. So anything you can do to make their life easier so that you can extend the lifespan of an employee too is an important function. I started off way back when, before I was working even on presses, I did roofing and siding.
Oh,
most people that do roofing and siding don't last 40 years in that career. It is a hard life. Now, with technology, using things like these exoskeletons that can assist you in help lifting and using technology like cobots, how do you see those systems being in there to increase the longevity of your workforce?
Yeah, that's another great point. I mean, we look at our KPIs we put into place, and safety is the first piece, followed by our people, quality, delivery, and financial performance. All those things go together to make a company more successful. But that's a perfect example of using those systems, using AI, using technology so that we can improve the longevity and reduce operator fatigue, reduce operator burnout in order to be able to make those operators be more successful. So we will use them to make sure systems are in place, make sure that we're efficient, make sure parts are within quality specification, how they need to get, and those systems will help reduce operator fatigue, reduce health issues, reduce stress, so that they can be longer term employees into that workforce. It's interesting. We have employees. We have two employees. We just celebrated 40-year anniversaries with Pennant. 40 years, and they are all direct laborers, and they've been in manufacturing. So it's really neat. And they've been in manufacturing as long as I've been in manufacturing in a very we'll say stressful, but they've worked in our facility where we have those automation systems that help them.
That's great. It's great to see somebody embracing that side of it. Can you talk a little bit about the fiscal side of using automation to improve your processes and even adding value added processes so that you're not just making cheap widgets that add no value and instead can increase the profit margin by actually focusing on value added processes that are desired?
Yeah, good point. One of the things we used and we talked about and referenced in the automation strategy is we're using the cobots, and we're using these systems to be able to check parts for the presence of parts, for the length of parts. We're even checking holes to make sure certain holes are in there. So, any automation strategy, use this example. We're new in the automation strategy. Some companies go full-fledged with fully integrated robots, which can become quite expensive. The cobots are versatile. So our goal is to be able to collaborate, cobot collaboration robot, in order to be able to make the employee's job better. And there's always the cost payback piece of it. We've approached it not that we're reducing direct labor, even though there are cases where a cobot can help reduce direct labor, but more importantly, improve the efficiency of our facility. So we look at a 1-year payback in most cases for an investment. Specific to cobots as an example, a cobot, we can put a cobot in place typically for less than $25,000 per cobot. A fully automated robot's in the $75,000 to $80,000 range. So the cost benefit needs to take place, and it needs to be a long-term commitment. And one of the suggestions I made to some of the listeners into that live on the shop floor report is, be committed. Make sure you understand your cost, and know that it's okay to make a mistake now and then in your process. Obviously we want to minimize those from a costing standpoint, and you'd never do that to make sure, you never jeopardize safety. But in a lot of cases, in most cases, is doing something's better than doing nothing. Know that it's a continual evolution process, and just show productive movement forward at every step of the game, knowing that things are going to change over time. There'll be new controls out there. There'll be new systems. There'll be new ways for a press to communicate with the feeder system and the coil cradle, and we're getting into fabrication now, and with back gauging and laser controls and lights out manufacturing types of processes. Those will all help in that area to make you more competitive. But there always is that cost benefit piece, and some people's tolerance for investment are greater than others, and some are less. But you need to really understand the cost benefit of it to make you to be more competitive. And we talked a little bit also about when you look at how you go to market. I look at a straight line paradigm that you can either be a contract manufacturer that is more of a commodity manufacturer to more of a specialty manufacturer. So as you maneuver on one side to the other, to that niche or specialty side, you need to have a unique value proposition. You need to set yourself apart from your competitors, and that automation and those technologies allow you to do that. But it has to be through adding value, improving your value proposition, and almost making yourself irreplaceable to your customer so that you add value to them. And we also have an approach here that we want to be a trusted advisor, that I want our manufacturing people and our salespeople to advise our customers and help our customers, whether they buy anything from us or not, which sounds to be unique or interesting, but I want our customers to reach out and ask us questions and ask our input, because we're trusted that way. And ultimately we help not only our customers, but the industry evolve over time.
Yeah. As part of that, do you see an opportunity from a workforce development, growth, and retention? What do you see as, how do we get there with some of the things, using technology to help with that? I know there's been studies that say that if you are a company that embraces technology, your retention will go up as well as your recruitment, because people want to see that the company they work for is using technology, is interested in a younger workforce, and they want to see that. They don't want to come in and say, here's a bunch of papers, you need to read this. They're like, why don't you just have this on an app? Or why can't I just scan this with a QR code? What do you see as far as that goes, as to keep people, especially we do struggle in our industry, manufacturing, to recruit to begin with. And I think you had a couple of slides here to talk about the vacancies.
Yeah, very good point. And each individual generation has its own unique challenges. But one of the things about the newest generation is they're very technical savvy. They're used to automation, and they're used to virtual, development, or a lot of, internet and apps and those kind of things. So very important to keep them challenged. And it's a good point, because, traditionally it's a lot about education too. Traditionally, even in my generation with the Generation X, as we all saw our parents work in manufacturing, and it was a little bit dirty and it was dusty, and sometimes it was greasy and oily. But manufacturing's changed a lot since that time. But unfortunately, we've not changed how we educate and let people know what manufacturing is about. So, we do simple things like, online applications, which about everyone's doing right now, online healthcare. We have online ways that you can present employment opportunities, and you can give opportunities for improvement across the organization. But you're right, press controls, and a lot of individuals love IT and system related things out there. Well, guess what? A press is a gigantic, could be perceived as a gigantic computer, with the controls and the integration and the communication that is not so different from a white collar type computer application. So I think it's a lot about education. One of the things we're really pushing is go down to the tech schools. I'm not even sure whether it's still in place, but in 1990, to tell you how long ago it was, I was with the metal stamping company, and I was integral in introducing the National Institute of Metal Stamping Standard Skills, where we actually went into high schools and tech schools to teach them and to certify them. As a matter of fact, that metal stamping company helped certify those employees in that area, so that they were certified, and it became very much like a college degree or any other manufacturing certificate or technical certificate. But so, I deviate a little bit there, but to me, it's about education and making sure that people know how manufacturing is. The United States will always be a manufacturing company, because it's integral to integrated to an economy to be able to manufacture things overall, despite what your opinions are in, global production and fair market or open market. But, when we talk specifically about those graphs, it's interesting. One of the things that the CEO magazine reported out, and it's a CEO index, was in 2025, as recent as April of 2025, is the first things that bothered CEOs. And I share the same thought, and that's rising costs. We've seen inflation rise over the last couple of years, and whether it's utilities or labor, the labor markets continue to grow. Investment in automation, like we've seen here, is important. But the number two piece was recruiting, and the number three concern was retaining those employees once you did recruit them. And then that's only followed behind healthcare and the ability to pass pricing increases on to your customers, which which, goes hand in hand and counter to those inflationary pieces going. But right now, as far as by the Federal Reserve reported in March of 2025 that there's over 500,000 open direct labor positions in manufacturing in the US right now alone. And then it was interesting when you look at it geographically, some of those geographic and demographic areas that you wouldn't have thought there'd be manufacturing opportunities across different states in the US are actually high. So, I think that's a breath of fresh air, and it's actually a rallying cry that manufacturing is strong, independent of administration's policies. Manufacturing is strong in the US. It can create a great opportunity to give job security for you and your family over time. It's sustainable, and you can make it what you want to be. You start out in manufacturing, and then you can always go into tooling, into the other areas. And the last thought on that I find trouble as we're recruiting people. We all run into it every day. Is we may start out our manufacturing team new recruits at $17, $16, $17, put the dollar in there. And the challenge that we have is without the right education, is that person sees it as a dirty, maybe non-safe environment in some cases when it's not. But then conversely, they look at a McDonald's or a retail application that may start them out at the same area. However, if you fast forward to where the salaries are 5 to 10 years after that, in the manufacturing area, you may be up to $30 an hour versus in the fast food or retail industry, you're still back in that $17 to $18 an hour range. And it's not accelerating at the same rate that manufacturing does. And, manufacturing is more of a career move. You have to look past that first year in the entry level to see where you may go over time as far as sustainability. So to me, it's exciting. I love to make stuff, and I love to see the manufacturing area strong and the manufacturing sector strong in the US. And I think it's just going to continue to be strong, but we need to find the right people to make sure it maintains that efficiency and that ability to be able to compete.
Yeah. Well, Chris, we're just about out of time. Can you please tell everybody how they can find out more about the Pennant Group?
Yeah, so our website is pennant-us.com. Encourage you to look out at our site. We also promote our business through LinkedIn, and then through the great efforts that PMA is doing as well. So I thank you and PMA for promoting the industry. It's neat that it seemed like after a little bit of a lull, we've now been back in there, and PMA is really strong in there and educating the groups, and you're part of us being more competitive in the manufacturing space. So please visit pennant-us.com and find out more about us, and look forward to talking with you in the future.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris, for taking time today. We really appreciate you, and we appreciate Pennant for allowing you to have some time to come on here on the show. It's been tremendous to have you on here and gain some of your insight. This has been Dean Phillips here at the Destiny of Manufacturing podcast. Make it a great day.
Thank you.